California has a 3 strikes law, but in real estate, I'm going to give you my own 3 strikes law for the state of California, that is. And these are 3 things that I'm not going to say you shouldn't do, but you should be very aware of what they mean when you're going to purchase a house. You want to know what they are? Stay tuned because we're getting into it right now. Hey everybody, Dietrich Williams, Realtor with Compass, Baldwin Hills, California. Welcome back to another edition of Info on the Go, the show where I give tips, tricks, and insight on how to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in Southern California. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so that you are made aware every time I upload new content to YouTube. The current housing market is super competitive right now. It's not a question that we're seeing record low levels of inventory, record low interest rates, which is spurring a lot of that demand, and we just don't have the supply to match it. And as such, it's driving prices higher. So we have buyers that are out there that are putting in offer after offer after offer, and they're getting rejected. Sometimes these offers are hundreds of thousands over list price. Sometimes they're doing things like waiving contingencies. And you have to be really careful when you waive those contingencies. So it's different from state to state. I don't know how contracts are drawn up in other states, so I'm really just speaking about California. Your state may have some similarities, so you just want to get with your realtor or an attorney to discuss the pros and cons of doing what I call waiving the 3 strikes. Now in California, you essentially as a buyer are offered opportunities to do some things where you could potentially back out of a deal if these things come back and you don't like what you see. And so we're going to talk about those 3 things. Now there are more, but these are the 3 basic ones. We're talking about your home inspection, we're talking about the appraisal, and we're talking about the loan. Now, in order to make offers more competitive, to improve their chances of getting an accepted offer, some buyers are waiving 1, 2, or all 3 of these contingencies. And while I won't say it's good or bad or you should or shouldn't do it, you really need to understand what it means when you waive these contingencies. Now, there's 3 sections in the California Residential Purchase Agreement that you really want to pay attention to as we're talking about these 3 things. It's sections 11, 12, and 14. In particular, you want to pay really great attention to section 14C. Section 14C highlights what happens when you remove the contingencies and what could potentially play out for you as a buyer. So again, you want to be very clear as to what you are doing should you decide to waive those contingencies. So let's just start with the first one, the home inspection. Now, in the state of California, under our RPA, or the Residential Purchase Agreement, which by the way is written up by a team of attorneys. So all of those contracts are pretty much boilerplate. You don't have to hire an attorney. There were a lot of attorneys in California that got together that wrote these things. So if your agent is going to make an addendum to go against some of the things that are in the contract, you really need to understand what they're writing, because the language that they use could counter out something that can protect you as a buyer. So keep that in mind when you're going to change some of the verbiage in these in the contract. Now, for your home inspection, you as a buyer have a period to do some due diligence. Usually in the contract is 17 days as a default. You can extend it or you can shorten it, whichever you choose. Most people in today's market are trying to shorten that timeline to get their offer accepted. But in that, you have a certain period of time to do a home inspection. So you want to find out what is materially wrong or anything defective that could be wrong with the property and how much it could potentially cost you. Now, if you waive that contingency, you essentially still could get an inspection. But what you are telling the seller is, even when we get the inspection, whatever we find on that report, we're not going to ask you to remedy or fix or credit us any of that money to do any repairs. We're essentially saying, yes, we are truly taking this house as is. Now, you can see why that could be a problem if you're purchasing something that you really haven't had a chance to test drive. So I'll give you an example. I have buyers under contract right now. Had they waived their inspection contingency, what they would have found was when the home inspection came back, there was termite damage to the subfloor, there was termite damage to the beams of the foundation, and there were cracks in the foundation. Now, We don't know the extent of all that work because we're gonna have a foundation guy come out and take a look at all of that. But imagine had you bought the house or had they bought the house and didn't have that inspection contingency in place. And then afterward found out all of these things. This could be a minimal cost. It could be a couple of thousand. I say that loosely. Or it could be a great cost. We're talking $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for what could be essentially a new foundation. So this is one of the reasons I don't propose ever waiving a home inspection contingency. Now, there are two other strikes that you could use to back out of the deal. So we'll get into the second one. The second one is your appraisal. Now, in today's market, what we're seeing is because buyers are offering so much over asking price, sellers are asking them to waive their appraisal contingency. And what that really means is if the house is listed for $500,000 and the buyer offers $600,000, when they waive the appraisal contingency, the buyer is essentially agreeing to come out of pocket the extra $100,000. Now, if somebody has the means to do so, and that's not going to cripple them or harm them in any way financially, by all means, you might want to do that. But if it's a situation where that $100,000 could tap into your life savings and now you don't have money in the bank or have any reserves, it can get a little tricky right now. So as much as it can be a play to do this to get your offer accepted, you want to just understand what that means and what the long-term ramifications could mean for you and your households and the economics of your household if you decide to do so. Again, if you have long cash, by all means, I would go for it. I don't necessarily advise my buyers to do it, but I am not in the driver's seat. I only make recommendations. I'm here to do what my clients tell me to do, but I wouldn't be a good agent if I didn't notify them and instruct them and walk them through what the pros and cons of doing something like this would be. Now, let's say you waived your home inspection, you waived your appraisal. You don't mind what's on the home inspection report, but there's some things that you really want the seller to fix and you know you can't ask. Well, you could ask, but contractually, they're going to tell you you waived that contingency, so don't ask. Now, your appraisal comes back, you agree to pay above value, you have the money to do so, perfect. But maybe you don't want to spend that money. If you waive your appraisal contingency, now you really only have one strike left, and that is your loan. So you have already gone through the process of getting pre-approved for a loan. Chances are you've gone through steps to get what's called a desktop underwriting or a DU approval, which means you are that much closer to getting approved for the loan as a whole. If, however, the inspection comes back and you don't like that, the appraisal comes back and you don't like that, your last out is the loan. And that's really on the lender and your financial situation. So let's assume as a buyer, you're able to do that. How are you going to get out of this situation now? You can actually get the loan. You just may not like everything else that comes along with it. Now, there will be some unscrupulous people who will say, I'll just call my lender and tell them not to fund my loan or to deny me the loan so that I can get out of the contract. And yes, you can, but if a savvy agent starts making phone calls, that becomes a whole different can of worms, and there could be a lot of people that get in trouble. So I wouldn't recommend that you do that. You didn't hear me even say that. I'm just telling you what I heard. So again, you have those 3 strikes as a buyer that you can use to back out of a contract without risking your earnest money deposit. And let's face it, if you're putting in lots of money that's just sitting in an escrow account, not collecting any interest, if you cancel the contract, guess what happens? You can get your money back, but the seller also has to sign off on that. And if they don't agree to it, now you got to go through mediation, arbitration, maybe even small claims court, and that can tie up your money for months, if not years. Again, I'm telling you all this not to scare you or say don't waive your contingencies when you make that offer, but I would not be doing you a service if I didn't tell you what the ups and downs sides are to doing so. So again, home inspection, loan, appraisal contingency. Not necessarily in that order, but that's typically the order they fall in is home inspection, appraisal, loan contingency. If you waive all 3 of those right off the bat, you put your earnest money deposit at great risk if things come back that you do not like and you want to back out of the deal. Now, in our company, we have the buyers sign basically a waiver that says we have instructed you what it means to waive your contingencies. And if something comes back that you don't like, please don't come back to us and say you didn't tell us and we're going to sue, because we're going to say, no, you signed on the dotted line. We explained it fully. So again, it's something that we want to make sure that we're telling the buyers to protect you, to protect the asset that you're getting ready to purchase, and or to protect your earnest money deposit. So I hope you take that information seriously, not just with a grain of salt, because I would hate for some of you who have been putting in offer after offer after offer, and you're getting beat by the same contingencies. And those are the offers that are beating you. You don't want to be that one person that finally decides to do it because you get emotional, you get fatigued, and you're tired of getting beaten out, and you do something like this and it comes back to bite you. Now, again, I'm not going to say whether you should or you shouldn't do it. I'm just giving you the facts of what happens when you do. So there it is, my 3 strikes in California real estate that as a buyer, you can use those to back out of a deal. Now, again, if you waive those 3 strikes, if you waive those 3 contingencies, you are putting your earnest money at great risk. And I know you don't want to do that. I don't want to see that happen to you either. So please strongly consider what I'm telling you. Discuss it with your agent and or your attorney so that you are making the best informed decision as possible. That's why I do this show, Info on the Go. I'm giving you information so that you can take it, go with it, run, and make informed decisions. All right, so please, if you found this information useful, make sure that you leave me a comment below. Let me know if you've been placed in a situation where you've had to waive the appraisal or the home inspection, or you're being asked to do so. And if you did it, if it worked, please let me know. If you did it and it didn't work, please let me know. I really love dialoguing with the community out there. And just leave me a comment. Also, make sure that you like the channel. That just helps YouTube know that people are really loving this content, and hopefully it pushes it out to other people who will both use and enjoy the content.